We've gone through a lot of challenges, but not nearly as much challenge as a lot of people in Western North Carolina. It has been an absolute roller coaster. I either wanted to do a marina, I wanted to own a campground, or I actually even thought about purchasing a golf course. My happy place is in, on, and around the water. And this business is completely about relationships. Whether you're selling someone a drink, scooping them an ice cream, renting them a pontoon, checking them out for a round of mini golf, putting them in a kayak, it is all about relationships. And it didn't hit me until that time. I don't know a person in the entire state of North Carolina.
What's up, guys? Lift and Love. Lift and Love here. Where did you pull this question from? Why is that? Lift Love. Crochet. We out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Lifting Love podcast. You are awesome, and today's episode is brought to you by Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. And you know what's so cool about this episode is that we actually have the owner of Lake Hickory, one half of the owner, a co-owner of Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, the face of Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, someone I'm lucky enough to get to call a friend, someone I've got to know. And first off, I'm super excited for this, and I'm grateful for the space. Mr. Dan Kelly, everybody. How you doing, Dan?
Lenny, I'm doing great. Thanks for being here.
Are you kidding me? Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. This is like when a marina, and now we're doing podcasts. I'm like, boy, it hasn't even been a year, so
just
I love
call
it.
Lake Hickory Studios.
There we go. You know what? It's got a ring to it.
It's
got a ring to it.
It
yes,
does.
with a view. With a view.
I mean, literally, with a view. I can see the one right here. So, gosh, there's so much to get into, especially the year you guys have had. But like everything I like to start with, for the people who don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
Yes. So my name is Dan Kelly. I am the current owner of Lake Hickory Pub and Marina. And our family decided to do a little bit of a life change, a new life adventure. So we moved from Minnesota to North Carolina to purchase Lake Hickory Pub and Marina. And it has been a wild, rewarding, crazy, disastrous, beneficial, just ups and downs. It has been an absolute roller coaster, but I've loved it. Loved every minute of it. So we're here as a family. We're all in on this endeavor. It's definitely been a wild ride, but we're all about the community. We're all about this area, and really looking forward to what the future has in store. Because if it's anything like the last year, I know it's going to continue to be a wild, wild ride.
So, something so cool about you guys, and I mean, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, especially with the marina, especially this past year with the hurricane and everything. But before we get there, how? Like, I need you to connect the dots, because it is such an interest. You went from here to here, and it was, like you said, it was a 180. Yep. Like, how did you end up in Hickory, North Carolina? Like, what does that story look like?
Yeah, it is an interesting ride, and I look back and it feels like it's transpired over years, but literally this week will be 10 months that we've lived in North Carolina. So wow. It's one of those things, Lenny, and I know we've talked about this. We were at a very comfortable spot in our life. So we have two teenage kids. We had a chance, the privilege, the opportunity to raise them in a lake community in Minnesota. And it was one of those things where my wife's done nursing her entire life. I've been in sales and marketing my entire life. She's moved around to a couple different jobs, but spent a lot of time as a labor and delivery nurse. And I had spent the last 23 years with the same company. Started off kind of an entry level, worked my way up, and we were just at a very, very comfortable place in life. And it was one of those places where, probably if you ask my wife, she would have been fine continuing to stay in that very comfortable space. But I got to the point, and really what it came to is it came to the head where I'd been with the organization for a very long time.
Yeah.
I had two kids, my son that just graduated high school and my daughter that was going to be graduating high school. And it was like we're entering this next phase of life. Like we were in this phase where our entire life was around raising our kids. And we got to the point where we were, quote unquote, successful. And it was like, so what's next? Do we keep doing what we're doing, or do we change it up a little bit? I came up with the great idea, and I had always wanted to own a business.
Yeah.
And years ago, there was actually a local marina in Minnesota that had been on the market, but we were very early on in life. We were just starting to have kids. Financially, it just wasn't in the cards, but it lit that little pilot light, that little flame that was just kind of flickering, and it's just been sitting in the back. And I was like, you know what? If we're going to do this, this is probably going to be the best time ever. So talked to my wife, talked to my son and my daughter, and I said, hey, what do you guys think about if we started to look at a business? We didn't know where we were going. And I said, you know what, it's probably going to take a couple years to find this business. That's what they say. Most people, if you start looking entrepreneurial, it's going to take a couple years. So as soon as I got my wife, my daughter, and my son to all give me the green light to at least start looking, I was off to the races. And so at that point, I was online, I was on the phone, I was talking to everybody, anything possible, and basically just started to narrow it down. We started with 3 businesses. We started with, I either wanted to do a marina, I wanted to own a campground, or I actually even thought about purchasing a golf course.
Still on brand with outdoors, though.
Yes, all outdoors, all things that are enjoyable, bringing people together and so forth, creating lasting, experiences. But I knew very quickly, our entire life, my happy place is in, on, and around the water. And we raised our kids to also, their happy place was in, on, and around the water. So once we started looking, I found 10 marinas that met our criteria: budget, location, proximity to local community, those sorts of things. So we went out and traveled to literally 10 marinas in 6 different states, looked at all of them, kind of had our criteria, and quite honestly, this one just checked off the most boxes. Really, it was down to 2. It was this, or there was a marina we looked at Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. Wow. And both those marinas were very different. There was a lot of similarities, but once we got to this one, we just knew there was something that told me this was the one, but at the end of the day, I had to sell my wife on it. So I got my wife on a flight. She came out. We looked at it. We met with the owners. We immersed ourselves in the community. We went by the baseball stadium. We went by the airport. We went downtown Hickory. We walked around and really just tried to get a feel like, is this a place that not only could we start a business, but is it a place ultimately that we may want to spend the rest of our lives, retirement, and so forth? And so it just checked all the boxes. We thought it was just great people. And so after that first time, my wife and I were like, you know what? If we're going to do this, literally, we're all in. We're quitting our jobs. We're selling our house. We're selling most of our possessions, pulling our kids out of school, and literally going to move across the country to a state that we don't know a single person. And here we are, Lenny.
How close were you to going to Missouri? Did you even go and visit, or did you come here and you loved it so much?
So I actually went and visited it with my dad. And we drove to that one because coming from Minnesota, we could drive to that one. And we road trip. We drove down there. I've been to Missouri multiple times. I had never actually been to Lake of the Ozarks. Really, really cool place. Middle of nowhere, but the homes, the boats, the money, everything. It's like little in the middle of nowhere. But I really like the marina. The challenge was the marina was literally out in the middle of nowhere. And my dad and I, we went and visited, met with the owners. I was like, I could see myself owning this marina. But I remember to this point, my dad looked me in the eye and said, Dan, there is no way you're going to get your wife and your kids to move. It was 35 minutes to the closest gas station, which was where you could get milk.
Oh my
and it was about 45 minutes to an hour to the closest grocery store.
Oh
and it's like
gosh.
moving from the Twin Cities, a southern suburb of Minneapolis, to literally the middle of nowhere. And I was like, you know what? As much as I like the marina, the proximity, just being out in the middle of nowhere, there was no way I was going to sell my family on it. And it was already a big enough sell to try to get them to do this in the first place. That would have probably been an absolute disaster. And probably within 6 months, I would have probably been there all by myself because they would probably all be gone. So
like,
when I got to Hickory, I'm like, wait, my daughter's got 2 Starbucks within a couple of miles. But we got
especially with the granite one now.
Oh yeah, we were just opening. We got Target, we got a mall, we got retail, restaurants, baseball,
airport.
We got airports. I'm like, you know what? And we got nice weather, close to the beach, close to the mountains. I'm like, I can sell my family a much, much better on this location than the middle of Missouri. So nothing against Missouri. Love Missouri. But I'm happy we're here.
So you said, I didn't know that part of the story where you said you sold almost everything you owned. What did you guys end up keeping? Like, you sold your home. Like, there was all these other things. What did you guys end up keeping?
Not much. So we literally went from a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on a small lake community in the South Metro, south of Minneapolis, and we got all of our possessions into the medium-sized U-Haul rental truck. And so we literally loaded in. It's kind of funny. So we taped off in our garage the dimensions of the moving truck. And so we just started putting stuff within the tape and said, okay, if it fits in this, we can bring it. If it doesn't fit, it's not. So grill, gone. Couch, gone. Bedroom set, gone. A lot of stuff was gone. We literally loaded up the U-Haul. We loaded up my son's truck. We loaded up a car. We put the 2 jet skis on the jet ski trailer behind my son's truck. We sold the boat. But literally, we probably sold about 85% of our stuff. So it was clothes. We didn't bring any furniture. It was really pretty much the necessities. It felt like we were all moving to college, essentially. It's like, if it fits in the moving truck, it's coming. If it's not, it's left behind. So it was like a cleansing process. It felt really good to myself because I don't like clutter. For my wife, my son, my daughter, it was a little bit nerve-wracking being like, boy, what can you take? But most of the stuff we couldn't take. So it was truly the start of a brand new adventure.
How scary was it? Like, when you think about it, it's like, how far away from
1,200
here?
miles.
1,200 miles.
Door to door, 1,200 miles.
I mean, most people probably thought you were out of your mind. But regardless of what people think, because that's completely irrelevant, how did you feel? And what did you honestly think? Like, were you confident about it? Like, what were your feelings in that moment when you were like, okay, it's not just an idea. Yep. It's not just Googling, businesses to buy or lakes to be by. It is literally happening. We're buying this business. What did that feel like?
Yeah. I don't know if you can explain the emotions you go through. Kind of like since we've been here, it is a little bit of a roller coaster. I wasn't as concerned about myself as I was worried about, is this something that my wife and my kids would enjoy? Yeah. I knew my kids being teenagers, graduating high school, I knew they were going to be starting their own new adventures, but I really liked the aspect that we could start this as a family, see where that goes, and then they can kind of go and do their own thing. Maybe they want to stay and work with the business. Maybe they want to move on elsewhere. But it was, you do get a little concerned because you're going to be telling people something that it's going to take them a little bit of time to actually consume. When you tell people, it's like, so, what are your thoughts? It's like, well, no, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to sell everything I own and I'm going to take my family and we're going to pull them out of school and we're going to move across the country. They're like, just one of those things is a pretty big life-changing event and we're just going to do all of it at once. So it's like, boy, for my kids and for my daughter's sake, I was like, am I going to end up being at this place by myself? Are they going to make the trip or not? And then it's starting to tell your friends and your family. And you said something which is exactly right. You get one of two responses. Either you are absolutely crazy. Is there something wrong with you? But you'll get people that will say that, they'll pause and they'll be like, you know what? I've thought about doing one of those things. Maybe not all of them, but you know what? I've thought about moving across the country. I've thought about changing jobs. I've thought about pulling my kids out of school and maybe moving into a new community. And so it's interesting because I think most people, not all people, but most people, they like the thought of the unknown. And it was as I was telling people, I learned some things about people that I've known for a very long time. And they're like, you know what? I actually at one point in my life thought about doing X, or I thought about doing Y, or I thought about doing Z. So it was neat because I was so concerned sometimes, employers, friends, family, telling them, but a lot of times it very quickly changed into almost a very deep conversation about like what are their aspirations in life and so forth. And I think, I had several people that are like, hey, there's no way I'm going to do it, but I will live vicariously through you. So I got a lot of that where people are like, hey, or maybe I'm a guinea pig. And they're like, well, we'll see how Dan does. Maybe he'll fall on his face.
And if he does, I'm not going to do it.
Or it's like, well, heck, if he can do it, I can do it for sure. So
how many people's scapegoats you think you were for people? Handful?
I haven't thought about it, but yeah, for sure.
Like, hey, I'm going to go get that motorcycle I've always wanted. Or, hey, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. And, like, it was because you moved 1,200 miles and have been super successful.
And it's funny about that because now I think about it, there was 3 instances either during or shortly after we made this move where people reached out and said, I was on the fence about something, whatever that was, some sort of change in their life. And they're like, after hearing the fact that you, and they've obviously heard of other people, it may be, like you said, maybe they went out and purchased that new outfit. Maybe they changed hopefully it turned out well. I haven't had anyone that came back and said, thanks, Dan, for ruining my life. But no, it's been...
Yet.
Yeah.
We still got some time to go.
Oh, yeah. And I'm still, I'm still day to day. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's been an interesting, But yeah, the whole process was extremely fascinating just to see how people responded to that. But no, it's been great. I don't been here for 10 months. I absolutely love it. I feel like every day, I honestly, since I've been here, I don't feel like I've gone to work. I have worked harder and made less money than I've ever made in my entire life, but I've never actually been like, you know what, I have to go to work today. Now, if you talk to my family, they would definitely disagree with you. They feel like they're going to work and so forth. But I love that aspect of it, and I would not change that for the world.
I believe we're similar in a lot of ways as far as like social and talking to people. And I literally think this place just completely fits your personality because you get to just talk to anybody and everybody you don't know who's walking through that door next.
Nope.
You don't. It could be the mayor. It could be a random person you've never met before that becomes a regular. Mm-hmm. So like that's the cool thing about sales. And obviously you've been in sales, so you know that like just because they're a customer now, it's not about making the one-time sale, especially in this business.
Oh, yeah.
It's about how do we get them to be a recurring customer. I do want to preface, because I do want to talk about what happened with the hurricane.
Sure.
But I would love to talk BH first. I'm going to call it
yes,
BH before the hurricane.
It's funny. I was just talking to someone. It's like, since we've been here, there's, before Helene and after Helene. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
So before the hurricane, which was tragic and devastating for not just you guys, but a lot of people in this area of North Carolina, what was happening before Hurricane Helene? And like, what were the successes? Because you came into this, I don't want to say winging it, because at first you kind of were getting your feet and, from the conversations we had
sure
prior to, you guys really completely taking off.
Yep.
It was kind of like, we're going to try this and figure stuff out. What was it like before the hurricane to like, what were those struggles like? And what were those successes like? What was working at that point? When did you find your groove?
Yeah. So like you said, what was working, what struggled. So what was working is, and I don't know if it's as much what we did as just the timing of everything. What was working is we really felt like we were being embraced by the community. And you know what's funny, Lenny? So when we pulled into the parking lot with all of our possessions in a U-Haul.
a mid-size.
A mid-size, yeah. We couldn't even get ourselves to get the full size. A mid-size.
Do you remember the dimensions?
You know what? You know it. It's there. I do.
It's there.
I do. I want to say it was 8 by 16 or 8 by 14, something like that. It wasn't enough.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So we pulled into the parking lot and we bought a business. And this business is completely about relationships. Whether you're selling someone a drink, scooping them an ice cream, renting them a pontoon, checking them out for a round of mini golf, putting them in a kayak, it is all about relationships. We pulled into the parking lot and it didn't hit me until that time. I don't know a person in the entire state of North Carolina. I mean, it's funny about that. I literally didn't even think about it, but you're going to an area. You think about starting a business. The first thing you do is you hit up all of your friends, your family, your neighbors, your entire community, and you're like, okay, you know what? At least I'm going to have my friends and family come in. No problem. I didn't know a darn person. And for whatever reason, that never crossed my mind until I pulled in to an empty parking lot to this business and be like, we just moved here and we don't know a single person, which is wild. But we'd made it a point. That was one of the big things is we knew we had to be known very, very quickly. And so we really spent a lot of time. We tried to visit a lot of the local schools. We did a lot of networking, met people like yourself, joined the Chamber of Commerce, talked to other local business owners, some of the regular customers, really just tried to immerse ourselves in the community. And it was so much easier than I thought it was ever going to be. So I felt some of the things that were really working very well is I felt like we were doing a really good job of building relationships because we know that this business is going to be reliant on us. And it's not, like you said, it's not just getting someone in and get that first drink and then wave goodbye to them. It's like we got to get people that want to come back here time and time and time again. So really immersing ourselves in the community. From the business aspect, I think through social media, through building those relationships, we found that if we could get people to show up, people would typically really enjoy the space, whatever the enjoyment was. It might be the decor, it might be something to drink, it might be the ice cream, it might be the lake setting, it might be the location. And quite honestly, what was neat about it is a lot of them liked our story. So one of the things I found very quickly is I have to tell our story because people, if you find people that are like yourself that you can rally behind, hopefully they're going to want to come back and continue to support you and so forth. So we spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time telling the story over and over. If you ask my son, my daughter, our employees, they're like, Dan, if I have to hear this story one more time. But I'm like, to me, it was very important because I wanted people to know who we were. We were new to the community and to get the support. Business was going well. We were renting pontoons. We were selling ice cream. We were selling a lot of, food and drinks. And we were getting people to come back. Don't get me wrong, being new business owners, not having a clue what we were doing, we were also making mistakes like crazy. We were screwing up left and right, but I think what was important is we embraced it. We always use that as a learning activity, and we were the very first people, and we will still to this day. I will admit all the time, we make so many mistakes, and I think that's part of the process.
But it gives you so much room for growth.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh.
If you can't, from where we pulled into this parking lot, the only way we could do is grow, which was great. But at the same time, I tell you what, Lenny, even without the hurricane, gosh, we went through a lot of challenges. We had, we bought a marina that's been around for a very long time. This place has been around for 50 plus years. It's been added on to over the decades. It's an aging building. It's, we knew going into it, there was going to be a lot of improvements we were going to need to make. We just didn't know they were all going to happen in the first 6 months. I mean, it was,
and then the hurricane
happened.
happened.
And that was even before the hurricane. I mean, it was, septic and leaking roofs. And you talk about hardships, now I look back and laugh on it, but one of my favorite stories is we had, which everyone loves septic. We had septic issues the day before Mother's Day weekend, which, if you remember, was probably the first beautiful day of the year. Mother's Day weekend was gorgeous. We had septic issues and we had to close the business down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're here, we're moved in, we're starting to get, we're kind of getting our stride. Weather for the weekend looks gorgeous. It's Mother's Day. The Riverwalk had just opened up. People were going to be out. I'm like, you know what? This is our time to shine.
The perfect storm for a weekend, a business, and for a business that you guys do 80% of your business on the weekend? Oh,
for sure. And in the summer. And it's, and so we're like, we're going to nail it. This is going to be this is going to put us on the map. And then literally Friday night, we have a septic backup. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So literally we spent Mother's Day weekend, and I'm not kidding you. My wife and I sat on chairs out front and just told people we're closed. They're like, and this is I think our third or fourth weekend open, and we time every person that pulled into the parking lot in a car, every person that pulled up to the dock. Sorry, we're closed. Well, why are you closed? Well, we're having some maintenance issues and so forth. And I'm just like, oh, it's kind of one of those. That was the first time where I had to oh my gosh, was this really the best? Here I am sitting outside the business, trying to tell people that we're not open for business. And I'm just like, so we sat there and just all day, every day for that weekend. Nope, we're closed. Nope, we can't go. We can't do this. And that was one of the lower moments earlier on. And then it was just ups and downs. We had good weekends. We had bad weekends. And then, of course, we had this insane heat, which I've been told doesn't usually kick in until July. It was like middle of June. It was 90 degrees, hot and humid. We're still getting used to the weather and so forth. And so it's been a share of ups and downs, but there has definitely been a lot more ups and downs. I mean, great people, great community, great people like yourself, other business owners. Everything about it has been great. Facilities, all of those things, you expect it. I guess our thing is we didn't expect it to happen so quickly, but it's also made us a lot stronger. We're a lot more tenacious about it. We're a lot hardier. So I tend to look at there's always positives that come from every situation. And I do think as we look back years to come, when we look back at this first year, we're like, you know what? That was a little bit of a gong show, but we survived. And now we can weather any storm. So
was that, again, before the hurricane,
yep.
Was that one of the moments where you looked and you were kind of like, what did I do? Was that one of the moments? What were some of those moments for you in the beginning, before the hurricane,
yep.
that you were like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, I would say the Mother's Day weekend was definitely a big one. I think as far as individual instances or moments, that would probably be early on one of the biggest ones. I think the one that was always there was just the family support. Not the family back in the Midwest, but my wife, my son, my daughter. You know, it's a lot. And once again, you looking back, you didn't really think about it as much. Think about pulling your son, who's a senior in high school and about ready to graduate, and both my kids went to the same school district and lived in the same house in the same community pretty much their entire school-aged life. And right before you get to the finish line of high school graduation, I pulled my son out at semester, his senior year, and a 16-year-old daughter, her junior year, and said, guess what? We're going to move 1,200 miles away to where you don't know anybody, and right now you are in an extremely comfortable environment where you have friends and family and jobs and all of this stuff. And then my wife, who worked for a great company, was friends of our family. We were in a great community. I mean, like I said, we were in a very comfortable spot in life. We could have very easily just kind of kept doing that. I was very nervous about am I going to go upstairs or leave work and all of a sudden, where's my wife, where's my kids? But I would say that was probably, and that quite honestly, still to this day, just knowing that the reality is this was probably my dream more than it was anybody else's dream, but they were willing to come along on this ride with me. And I think that's kind of always been at the back of my mind, is just making sure that, are they adapting? Are they meeting people? Are they enjoying people? And it's still very much a work in progress. We still always can be improving. But I would say that, and then that Mother's Day weekend, we had other stuff, things breaking down, leaking roofs, things, just a lot of ups and downs. But those are probably the two of the bigger, the ongoing of the family acceptance, and then that one instance of being like, boy, we are literally shut down right now and we are not in business.
So it's safe to say for 24, you didn't win Dad or Husband of the Year.
No. I don't know if I won any awards this year, except for, I don't know. Maybe change agent of the year. Maybe that's probably about the only thing that I've accomplished. But no, we're only a few days in, but I'm hoping I can get a jump start on this year. So, yeah.
So you talk about being comfortable, and there's a lot of like motivational people out there that's like, comfortability is kind of just something that people like soak in, and
sure,
it's easy to get lazy in that. Where did the mindset come for you to want to have a business? Because again, going back to what you're saying, it seems like you guys both had pretty good paying jobs. You guys were comfortable. You were taking care of your family. Your kids, like you said, are about to cross the finish line, finally being able to maybe get out the house and live their lives. Did you just always have an entrepreneurial mindset? Because in sales you have to have it.
Sure.
If you don't have that drive in sales, you're not going to last. Like, so where did that come from, or where do you think that it came from?
Yep.
Or did you have any like family influences? Like quickly about me, like my dad was an entrepreneur and I knew that, but when I got into my entrepreneurial journey, I didn't realize that my grandfather was also an entrepreneur. And I believe the world is full circle, because right now I run a car wash. My grandfather owned a car wash.
There you
So
go.
everything in life is just so full circle.
Yep.
But did you have any of those influences, and where did that come from, you think?
Yeah. And it's one of those that I don't have a single person per se that I can think of, but I think it's, to your point, it's a little bit of a lot around me. So on my mom's side of the family, they actually opened up right around the time I was born, a Harley Davidson dealership.
Nice.
And they've gone on, and it's gone through from my grandparents to my uncles to my cousins and so forth. So there's that entrepreneurial side on that side. I'm ever since I was young, and even if I think about, I think I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. And you're like, I think sales scratch that itch for a very long time, because at the end of the day, it's like the ultimate accountability, because you're as successful as you want to be, or you're not as successful as you want to be. And so I think there's that sales side. Very supportive parents. Early on, I look back at when I was a kid, I had friends. We were always looking at ways to make money and new adventures and so forth in different outlets and so on. And I mean, me and my best friend growing up, we hosted tennis tournaments, just different entrepreneurial things. And then I think when we moved onto the lake, where I spent a lot of time with a lot of retired people. Like my neighbors on both sides were retired, the neighbor next to them. I had John, I had Bob, and I had Randy. All three of them I got to see them go from working to being retired. And, they were big on life, looking back. I always ask the same question. We sit around a campfire and drink some beers, and I'll be like, looking back, what would you do differently? And I was always, anytime I'm around someone who's retired, I'm always interested, like, what would you do differently? And I think where I got to the point is, in my career, is I'd always done corporate America, which was great. I loved what I did. I worked for an organization where literally we partnered with school districts to offer, educational programming. Great job. But I said, you know what? When I'm sitting around a campfire and someone like myself asks me that question, like, what would you do differently? Do you feel like I was like, I think I'd kick myself if I didn't take a stab at running my own business, doing my own thing. And so I think that's always been, it's kind of grown over the years. And then as I talked to some other entrepreneurs that were maybe towards that retirement age, one of the things that a consistent theme is how much energy it takes to start your own business. Whether it's a, physically demanding, no matter if it's physical or mental, it is demanding to start your own business. And it's
24/7.
And it's 24/7, and I'm not getting any younger. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be running around docks and running around, doing all this stuff, I said, you know what? I don't know if there's a better time than it is now.
100%.
And where we're at in life, and so that's kind of where it started. And then once I got that green light from my wife and from the kids, it's one of those where we were literally, I was off to the races. I'm like, I got a window that can change their mind. I got to find us the right business. I got to move quickly. No. So it was a little bit of a lot of different influences, friends, family, childhood, but then also just talking to other people at differing phases of life and just putting it all together and say, you know what, if we're going to do this, let's do it now.
No, that's awesome. And I'd like to jump ahead here, because I think one of the most, and we've had this conversation off camera, I think one of the most impactful things to happen to your business, unfortunately, but fortunately, was the hurricane.
Yep.
Now, obviously, there was a lot of damage there. I mean, so many things happened, and especially everything that happened in Western North Carolina, Asheville. Yep. I mean, just the complete total loss of life. It's devastating what the hurricane did. But speaking solely about your business,
yep,
you guys lost so much. What did that do for you guys? Not only on like a actual physical level, like, the docks and all that, but
yep,
what did that do as far as like the support from the community, and really kind of, in a way, helped you guys grow for kind of a lot more people who maybe didn't know you to now know who you guys are?
Yep. Yeah. And so first and foremost, and you touched on it, I want to start by saying we've gone through a lot of challenges, but not nearly as much challenge as a lot of people in Western North Carolina. Yeah. So it's one of those things you kind of almost feel guilty because, yes, we were impacted, but at the end of the day, we're safe. We didn't lose our home. We didn't lose family members. And there's a lot of people that have gone through and continue to go through a lot of hardships. 100%. So I want to start there because it is one of those things where I think it's important to make sure to recognize at the end of the day, we lost a lot of stuff. And it was hard stuff to lose, but it was still stuff. We didn't lose people. We didn't lose, keepstakes, all that stuff. Yeah. But that being said, it was a pretty big blow. I mean, we came here because we wanted to purchase a marina. And we got the luxury where we got a marina, but we actually got a pub, we got an ice cream parlor, and really it kind of all complements each other. When we woke up that day and just thinking back to that, it was, I keep using the word wild, but sitting on the shore and just literally watching not only our entire marina, but between here and upstream, everyone's boats, docks, boat lifts, campers. I mean, all of this stuff just floating by the front of the marina, and then ultimately seeing one dock go, and then the second dock go, and then later that night, the other 3 docks go, and then knowing that we had customers' boats that were tied up to those docks. It was one of those things where you're kind of almost in shock. And of course, we were at the front row, so we had a lot of people, once again, going back to the community, we had a lot of people that were coming to check on us. We had the Hickory Police Department, we had the Hickory Fire Department, we had Grace Chapel Fire Department. It was neat, and you felt very supported because at this point, we'd only been here for 7 months. And to see how many people came out to check on us, we had people that were bringing us food. I mean, it was neat to see the community outpouring, but that next 24 to 48 hours, you talk about a little bit of once again, moved all the way across the country, sold everything we owned and everything. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, is this someone telling us that maybe this wasn't the right decision for us to do?
Is this how it ends?
It's like, in my mind, you want to be the Disney movie with the happy ending, but you're like, boy, this is just an absolute train wreck.
Yeah. What did you ever think of, like, closing? Like, was that ever a thought in your mind with the hurricane? I mean, the immediate initial thought, was it, I don't know if we're going to recover, or was it that we're going to get back and we're going to be bigger than ever? What was that first initial thought?
Yep. I think the initial thought was that was never in my mind. Now, I can't tell you that maybe wasn't in my wife's mind. Like, is this like a get out of jail free, or, hey, maybe this is our opportunity to, kind of, go back. But I never thought about it. I think the thing that made me the most concerned, quite honestly, was just the financials. Yeah. Because we had literally just taken out the biggest loan of our life. We had literally sold everything to make this dream come true. And there really wasn't necessarily a plan B. Now, the plan B is we could always go back. We know my wife could go back and get a nursing job. I could go find a sales job. But I don't want to do any of that at this phase of my life. This is what I want to do. And so my biggest concern is, looking at not knowing about insurance. I don't think anyone knows about insurance until you unfortunately have to figure it out because you have something happen. My biggest concern is just financially, could we find a way to make this work? Yeah. Because without the marina is what my passion is. The water is what my passion is. Without the marina, this business does not make sense. And quite honestly, I just wouldn't have an interest in just running a pub or just running an ice cream parlor. I like all of the components and how they come together. That was probably the biggest thing, was just, are we financially going to be able to make this work?
That's one of the things that I admire about small business owners and just business owners in general, is that, like, we're going to make this work one way or another. How big of a percentage is the marina side of your business? Yeah, so it's interesting because if you take the revenue, so the way this business is, it's kind of broken up into thirds. You got a third that comes from the rentals, pontoons, kayaks, paddle boards, the rental side of it. Yeah. You got about a third or a little bit more of a third that comes from the renting out of the slips, so people to slip their boats at your docks. And then there's about a third of it that comes from the pub and the ice cream parlor and so forth. But even the third that's the pub and the ice cream parlor,
most of your parking comes from people that park at your docks and come via boat. So there's the direct impact, but also the indirect impact. And for what we financially paid for this, the finance does not make sense with just a pub. And I'm like, there's no way with what we've paid for this that the investment would make sense. So at the end of the day, without docks, this business to us would not, it wouldn't financially make sense.
So I don't know how much you can speak about it, but what does 2025 look like? I know there's plans to build the docks.
Yep.
First off, how scary is that? And
Yep.
then second off, what does that even look like?
Yep. Yeah, so the plans is we're definitely rebuilding. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We've kind of worked through the insurance to see what that looks like. There's definitely some funding coming from insurance. Unfortunately, it's not enough to allow us to just hire a dock company to come in and build the docks. Bottom line, Lenny, is we're getting really scrappy. We're getting really scrappy. I mean, we're digging in. I literally plan over the next few months, any time that I can get away, I'm going to be out building those docks. We've hired a younger gentleman, Skyler, local guy, that's going to build them. My son's got experience working at a marina and building docks. He's going to be building them. I'm going to be there. We have a couple other local people that have already volunteered and been helping us. And then we have, quite honestly, I got a list of about 3 or 4 dozen people that are like, hey, I'll come out and screw deck boards in. I'll come out and move materials around. We're going to, but the beautiful thing is we have a community behind us, because once again, financially, we think we found a way to be able to purchase all the materials, but we're going to have to get really creative with the labor side of it. And so that's the plan. We're going to start here in the month of January. The goal is to get as many docks, if not all of them, back, hopefully by the beginning of May, because that's when our slip and boating season starts. So that's the plan there. It's going to be challenging. It's one of those things. It's weird to say. I wonder if 2-3 years from now, this might have actually been one of the best things that could have happened to us.
And that's what I was getting at when we had our last conversation, because it was at the Leeds group.
Yep.
And you were talking about everything that happened with the hurricane. And like, in a sense, like, everybody kind of knows who you guys are now.
Yep.
Like, oh, you're the place that lost the docks. You're the place that X, Y, and Z, like, or they would just probably come up to you randomly and be like, I'm so sorry about what happened, and how can I help? And I think, yes, people have taken tremendous losses, and luckily you guys were unfazed by, like, you guys didn't have physical loss.
Personal loss.
Yeah,
Yep.
Like, you didn't lose anyone in your family. The building is still standing, thank God. But the docks, unfortunately, went with it. So, like, again, awful that it happened, but just people knowing you and, like, the exposure that it brought you. I don't want to say PR for lack of better terms, but the PR it got you. Like you said, it was probably one of the best things that could have ever happened. And now you have this list of people who probably weren't regulars before, people who never came here in a way. Now they know who you are. You're a staple in the community. So beyond the decks, what does 2025 in your eyes look like for the pub and marina? Yep,
exactly. Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is definitely we want to get back to 100% on the marina side. We are, once again, this will be our second year of operation. So now we kind of know what we know. Lenny, really what our goal is, and I joke about the tagline, where lake and life meet. I mean, that's really kind of what the goal is. I'm a big fan, and I know you are too. It's surrounding yourself with really good people and having really good life experiences. And my goal for this place, and I think it's going to continue to grow and evolve. It's already definitely not what it was 6 months ago. And I think it's going to continue to evolve, and we're trying a lot of different things. I mean, we're trying stuff literally. My wife would say we're trying too much, but I'm a big fan of let's just try some different things, see how people react, see how the community reacts. But I do want this to be a spot where the community can literally come, and you got the lake and you got life, and I want to be a meeting spot for that. And what that looks like, right now we're a pub, we're a marina, we're an ice cream parlor, we got mini golf, we got rentals. I don't know if that's necessarily what it's going to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. We'll see kind of where that goes. But at the end of the day, it's like I want to create amazing experiences for people in this community. And I believe if I can do that and surround ourselves with really good people, the community will continue to support us. And I think I'm looking forward one of the hard parts about all this is I've typically been able to be in a situation where I'm always looking on how can I help other people. One of the hard parts is actually taking help. It's easy to give help, but it's hard to take help. And we've really struggled with that. We've tried as hard as possible not to take anything that we don't need. And if there's anything left over in this whole thing, we're definitely going to give it forward. We had started to give back to the community, but already we're trying to come up with what are other ways that we can give back to this community that's really rallied behind us. And that's where it's, once again, it's like I want to create amazing experiences for this community that we can help this community grow because it's already growing. But if we can help accelerate it and attract and retain really good people, that's much bigger than selling a scoop of ice cream. But at the end of the day, that's our way of doing it, is I think through providing those life experiences.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I only got a few more questions
Sure.
for you. It's, we talked about a little bit about reflection in the beginning. Would you go back and change anything?
You know what? It's if my wife was here in the background, she'd be like, can I give you my list of everything I would change? It's weird to say. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change anything. And I'm not just saying that. I think everything's for a reason. I think long term, I'm hopeful and confident, optimistic that this could be potentially the best thing. I joke, I maybe would have waited another year until after Hurricane came through North Carolina. It'd have been really nice to maybe come in after all this has happened, and then maybe I could get a little bit better deal. No, I joke about that. Maybe the timing would be a little bit different, but with where we were at, it was the timing was right for us. No, it wasn't the best for weather and Mother Nature and everything else, but I wouldn't change a thing.
That again, going back, is just another great mindset of like an entrepreneur. It's just like, ups and downs, good things, bad things, and just like having that mindset of like, sometimes honestly, it's such a general statement. It is what it is.
Yeah,
like
it really is.
It's gonna happen.
Yep.
Regardless. So last two I got for you. What's the? Hold on. I had it, but I want to switch. I want to switch the question. 2025.
Yep.
Marina, obviously that has to get fixed.
Yep.
What do you want people? And it's funny. I asked you this question in the video we did. I'm new. I've never been to Lake Hickory Pub Marina.
Yep.
For someone watching this.
Yep.
What do you want to tell them about the experience they're going to have before they come here and why they should experience Lake Hickory Pub Marina?
Yep. Lenny, good question. Gosh. I thought you were going to say if you were an animal, what animal would you be in? No, I'm just kidding. So my hope, my intention, my goal is when you come to Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, from the time you make the turn and right after you go across the 321 bridge, is you're going to feel welcome, you're going to feel at ease, you're going to feel you're by the water, so hopefully you're in a better spot than where you came from because you came by concrete probably, and you're going to be at a spot where it's like, you know what, this is a small family-owned pub and marina on Lake Hickory. I'm right next to the 321 bridge. I'm across from this beautiful river walk. I see people doing recreation, walking across. Hopefully you're going to feel very relaxed from the time you step into the parking lot. Then whether you walk out to the dock to get onto a boat, whether you come inside the one door to come into the ice cream parlor, or you come in the door for the pub, my goal is the first thing you're within 5 seconds, and I tell my employees you're met with a hello, how are you? You feel welcome. And we are a very small and intimate type business where you should start probably engaging in conversations with people you may know or you may not know within minutes. And there's a lot of really neat businesses in this area in Hickory, on the lake, off the lake, downtown Hickory, Granite Falls, surrounding area. What I think we have to offer is it's a very much a small business. Really good people work here. Really good people hang out here, and our customers or friends or guests. And my hope is, you feel relaxed. You feel like you're going to have a good time. You're going to get a good bite to eat. You're going to get something good to drink. You're going to get ice cream. But you're going to get it with a backdrop of the water. And to me, Lenny, the water, it's kind of like a campfire. You can sit there and stare at that darn thing for hours. And you're like, I have no idea I'm staring at a fire. I'm the same way with water. It's just, it's very relaxing. It's tranquil. It's recreational. And it's something about this environment, whether you're having a cold drink, whether you're having an ice cream cone, whether you're having a cheeseburger, whether you're about ready to rent a kayak or go out on a pontoon rental. I'm hoping you're happy, you're having a good time, you're relaxed, and you're surrounded with good people. And once again, that's why I hope when you come to Lake Hickory, Pub and Marina, it truly is where lake and life meet.
That's incredible. And I wish we could end it on there, but I got one more question.
Of course.
So I'd like to end everything on a positive note. Lifting love, obviously.
Yep, of course.
Maybe not to someone who's watching this. Maybe they're not an entrepreneur. Maybe they're not a business owner. But they're feeling, a little stuck in life. And I feel like might be one of the best people to ask this.
Yep.
Because your story is like you were doing this thing. You were super successful at it, but you wanted to change.
Yep.
What is the best piece of advice you can give to someone watching this right now about life in general? Maybe they're thinking about taking a big step. What's the best piece of advice you give to someone watching this right now?
I would probably have answered this question differently a year ago. So this is a good question. The first person who's asked me this. I would say, and this is based on my personal experience, I would find what's that one thing right now in life that you're maybe hesitant about, you haven't thought about doing, maybe it was a New Year's resolution you haven't quite gotten around to yet. What's that one thing in life, and find out a way to make it happen. Just do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
And I think, and it's one of those things where it's like you just, what's that thing that if you don't do, you're afraid a year from now, 5 years from now, a lifetime from now, you're going to look back and be like, you know what? If I could have gone back, I would have done this one thing. And it can be so minor. I'm going to wear blue tomorrow instead of red. It could be something small, or it could be a life-changing event. But I would encourage everyone, find one thing that you're thinking about. It could be huge, it could be small, and figure out a way just to do it.
That's awesome. And last thing before we hit the outro.
Yep.
First off, how can people, two questions in one, how can people support if they want to help out with the docs and all that? And how would people find you on social media?
Yep. So as far as where you can help, this sounds pretty straightforward, but just come visit us. Come visit us. We have kind of fun shirts right now that we have. It's Lake Hickory Pub and Marina. It's got a volunteer down the side, and on the back of the shirt, it says, building the docks one beer at a time. So whether you, and for you, if it's not beer, if it's ice cream, if it's a hot dog, just come visit us. Come hang out with us. Come say hi. That's probably right now, quite honestly, the best way to support us. Those of you that are looking, that want to roll up your sleeves and help us, build the docks back together, let us know about that as well. But really the biggest thing that you can do to help us out is just to continue to support us. If you've never visited, just come give us a try. Come, even if it's just coming and grabbing a scoop of ice cream, coming in and say hi. As far as where you can find us, definitely go out to our website, just www.lakehickorypubandmarina, all spelled out, pubandmarina.com. We're also Lake Hickory Pub and Marina on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to watch someone kind of make a fool of themselves on a weekly basis, you can come out on social media and watch me do. I tell you what, when you're sitting around at a pub staring at the water and it's a lot of downtime, you find different creative things to think about to promote your business. So even if you don't come visit us, hopefully you'll at least get a laugh every once in a while or be like, boy, this guy is an absolute idiot. But
you're doing it.
We're doing it.
That's the most important thing.
Yes.
People don't realize on social media.
Yep.
You just gotta post.
We're doing it.
Do it, and it's you get to poke fun of yourself.
Oh yeah,
but
a lot.
You're doing it.
Yep. A lot of poking myself and a lot of my daughter in the background being like, Dad, that is the stupidest thing you've ever done. So.
Real quick. My favorite so far has been your halfway to summer post.
Okay, there you go.
That was such a funny one.
There you go.
There was also the one of you when everything happened. You were like, hey, and then you just like turned and I was like,
yep.
I was literally, so you post really early and I woke up one day when all that happened and I was like, get the crust out of my eyes. I was like, let's see what's happening on social. And I'm like, oh, crap. I didn't even read anything. I didn't even know what happened. And I was
You're
like.
just seeing all this stuff float down the way.
Oh, my gosh. Like, whoa, that took a turn.
Yep.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Well,
on
and I
social
tell you
media.
what, poking fun of yourself is important. I don't know if you can tell, but my hat, if you can see, we've kind of rallied around this too. Literally, here in Hickory, North Carolina, I am the owner of the world's smallest marina. And so,
one boat?
Literally, we have one boat and one dock, and that's all we got. Some people like to go big. We're going really small. Now, hopefully that will change, but it's one of those things you gotta have fun with it. So
100%.
it's to your point, it's one of those things. So yeah, we like to have fun around here. I'm hoping that a lot of our employees, our family members, they really like to come to work, because at the end of the day, I didn't do all of this to come here and be miserable. I'm going forward. I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing, and if I'm not doing that, then I got to go find something else. So.
100%. So
Yep.
Most importantly, thank you for your time.
Lenny, thank you.
Secondly, thank you for allowing us.
I tell you what,
to
this
use
is awesome.
space.
Like I said,
it looks so great.
You better come back, because this is
100%.
fun, and I like you. I like hearing people's stories. So
love it.
boy, thinking about if you come back on a regular basis, I can meet some new people and hear kind of their stories. And I like, once again, it gives an opportunity for us to show off this unique space we got. So thank you so
100%.
much.
Thank you. And until next time, thank you again to Lake Hickory Pub and Marina, where lake and life meet. But until next time, this was another Lifting Love podcast. Lift love, crush hate, and just like that, we out.